Um, for today's practice, I wanted to give everybody a heads up about props before we actually get into it. So if you need to kind of scramble around the house and find what you need, you'll have it. For the most part today, just a good stack of books or 2 standard blocks will do for the majority of our props. If you do have an extra yoga mat lying around the house, that can be helpful certainly. But if not, we're just gonna roll our mats up from the back when we need to, when we come to that posture. For today, we're actually going to be trying to catch a few flying birds. We're going to be rolling into crow, sleeping swan, crane posture, and there's one more that's escaping me right now, but I promise you, pigeon, thank you. See, there's 4. So we probably have just about 2 more minutes or so. So if you're in the process of getting your space set, just go ahead and get yourself comfortable, maybe put on some nice quiet music in the background. And then once you are set and comfortable, we'll all meet together in child's pose, just taking the time to really get set and settle into our more meditative mind. So you can go in child. So of course with child's pose, you want to make sure that it's your most comfortable child's pose. Okay, this may mean having your knees nudged in quite close together or having them separated quite far apart. Relative positioning with the feet as well, a little bit closer, a little bit wider, to make sure that your knees first are comfortable. There shouldn't be any sharp pressure sensations, no electric or pointing sensations in your knee joints. If you're finding any discomfort within the knees, certainly opening your knees wider apart will be the first step. But if that doesn't quite fit the bill for you, a nice modification, particularly if you have any history of knee injury, is firstly to sit a block or 2 beneath the hips. And then, as your hips are going to be elevated, you'll find the upper body is a little too far away from the earth, so in that case, placing a yoga bolster or a couple of thick pillows underneath your torso to fold over will make you more comfortable overall. So additional to making sure that your knees are comfortable, next step once your knees are in a good position is of course to relax the fronts of your hips, where your thighs literally meet your belly. Okay, we often refer to that as our inguinal crease or our hip creases. So with your eyes closed, your face relaxed, just take a nice deep breath into the front of your hip sockets and imagine you can feel both of them expanding outwardly. And then as you exhale and they soften, notice if your hips want to sink maybe a little deeper. The forehead and your elbows should be on the floor or on your bolster, so you can make sure that your neck and your shoulders are totally relaxed. From here then, we'll start to really tune in to our quality symmetrical breathing, samavriti breathing. So we're finding a nice balance between the length of our inhale and our exhale. Okay, making the breath perfectly symmetrical in its duration is for one part about accountability, making sure that you're staying focused and attentive to your practice through the whole duration of that practice. Now another factor here as far as keeping the breath controlled and regulated is it's going to help to keep the nervous system under control, not letting us slip into that adrenaline stress state. And of course on the other end of the spectrum, not letting us get too drowsy, dopey, or tired. So find a good breath for you, whether that be 4 seconds or 6, 8 seconds or 10. Once you've found a comfortable duration breath, equalize the inhale and the exhale, and then feel that movement, in particular on your back body here in child's pose. Expanding through the back of your hips, your kidneys, and the backs of your lungs. And with every exhale, you can feel yourself falling more deeply into the earth, succumbing to gravity, each and every time you empty. We're going to start to shift into our more dynamic flow. So if you do have any bolsters, any cushions, moving them out of the way. If you're in child's pose, simply open your hands to shoulder width. And as you begin to shift forward into a tabletop position, bring your knees into their hip width alignment. So your shins are parallel, reaching toward the back of your mat. crown of your head lengthening forward. So we'll pick up the ribs just a little bit. Draw the floating ribs in slightly so your spine is totally neutral. Spread the fingers and pressing squarely through the four corners of your palms. Find enough strength pushing down through your hands to help you feel a lift through the back of your heart. Now we'll begin with our back bend. So dropping the belly toward the earth, roll the heads of the arm bones back for our initial cat position. Drawing the eyes up, be sure to keep the sides of your neck long. Okay, the sitting bones lift as much as the crown of your head. And then our opposite direction, let the skull fall as we round. The head is heavy as you gaze past your nose toward your navel. The back body lifting by way of the front. So your belly is lifting, your solar plexus is pushing, even your chest is helping to elevate the ribs. Okay, finish off this exhale. And then dropping the belly, roll the heart open. Inhale, collarbones wide. Leading with your tail, tuck under, round your spine, sides of the neck and the jaw are soft. On the inhalation, be sure to fill the tops of your lungs. Really expand all the way up. Exhale, strength. Squeeze the belly. Twice more. Full inhalation. Keep the features of your face relaxed. Long exhale. Lift the back body even higher. Inhale, sitting bones not only lifting but widening away from each other. Exhaling, curl. Neutral tabletop position. Fill yourself up fully, tuck your toes. With an exhale, lift your hips into downward dog, pulling the waist away, and then bend your knees, look forward, and start to walk your way up to the top of the mat, bringing your feet between your hands. You draw your hands up your shins as you lift part way with an inhale, flattening your back, melt down, head to knees. A few more times. Hello to the hamstrings. Halfway lift on the inhale. Exhale, full head heavy. Try to keep the weight forward. Inhale, push down through your feet to really establish that length. Melting, soften your toes. It's about 4. Let's do one more. Inhale, hips away from heart, and then fold in deeply. Bend your knees and let yourself dangle from your hips for a moment. Now, with the head remaining heavy, round your spine up, vertebra by vertebra, keeping the abdomen hollow. When your shoulders stack atop your hips, drop the arms, engage the legs, crown lifting, eyes over the horizon. Modified Surya Namaskar A. Pressing through the feet equally, let your crown lift a little higher. Drawing the thigh bones back, anchor your tailbone into the earth. Inhalations expand from hips to heart. Exhalations descending right back down into your base. With the next inhale, ride the breath up, lift your arms overhead, look to thumbs, hinging at your waist, fold all the way down, bending the knees however much you need to place your thumbs on the floor. Halfway up we go. Inhale, lengthen your spine, step back to plank position. Now from plank position, we're gonna pause, reaching the heels away from the crown, and then drop your knees. Stay here for a moment. So with our inchworm posture, we're gonna be pushing back through our heels, but also pushing back through our hips a little. This will help us to lift the lower belly. Take one more breath in, back of the heart is light. Exhale, bend your elbows close to the ribs, lower your chest and chin, keeping the hips slightly lifted, and then drop them to the mat, cobra pose. With an inhale, press gently into the palms to roll the shoulders back and lift through your crown. Push your hips away and then straighten your legs for downward facing dog. You're separating your feet about hip width and then walking the feet in just a little closer so as to give yourself a nice strong foundation, pressing equally through all 4 corners. Now for the vast majority of our flows today, we're going to be sticking with inchworm and cobra posture. It's not because I'm being a meanie, but there is an intention behind it, and we have a specific goal that we're heading towards. So maybe dial back the ego if you need to a little bit today. Don't worry about those chaturangas and up dogs, and just get into that gentler, bendier type flow. One more exhalation here in down dog. And at the end of that breath, look forward, inhale your way up to the top of the mat, lengthen your spine, find that perfect forward fold, head to knees. Rising with the inhalation, lift all the way up into the sky, equal standing, smiling with your eyes. Twice more. Inhale, lift. Find that nice long stretch through your hamstrings as you fold. Pushing through the feet, keep your toes soft to lengthen, step back, plank position, drop your knees. Push back through your sitting bones, elbows close, inchworm, lower. Keeping your hips on the floor in cobra. Find a little lift with the inhale, but the elbows do not straighten. Downward dog you go. So you see Amber made this little adjustment, stepping the feet up a little closer to her hands so she can have that nice solid foundation. Now, as well as bringing the feet just a tiny bit closer once we've settled into dog pose, you should see visibly that your heels are just behind your ankle bones. So we have them hidden slightly from view, helping us to turn our inner thighs toward the wall behind us, and that helps to guide the energetic direction of downward dog. In this case, hips back and up. So the end of your exhale, eyes forward, and then up you go with your inhalation, long spine, hips pull away from the crown, fold forward. Rising to Urdhva Hastasana, your hastas are upwards, arms by your sides. One more time. Inhale, lift. Exhale, long stretch through the back body. Keep your toes soft when you bring length into the spine, breathing in between the vertebrae, and then back you go. Drop your knees, push back through your heels, and then keep those elbows close for inchworm. Head remaining heavy, that is, cobra posture. Draw your gaze forward at the peak of the breath, and then downward dog, back you go. You make those little adjustments as you need. Of course, if the hips are really tight, if you're finding a lot of stressing and straining through the upper body, a beneficial modification for downward dog is to simply bring them into the knees and then focus on drawing the hips back to keep the spine straight. And then of course, as the hips progressively grow more open, legs straightening more and more, hamstrings and calves reaching to earth. Last exhale. At the conclusion of that breath, inhale forward, top of the mat, spine long. Bow down as you draw your hips up toward the ceiling. Ride the inhale up nice and tall, arms lift to sky. Equal standing, arms by your side. So you're gonna feel the desire to fidget, try to resist it for a moment, but also at the same time acknowledge that it's there. Now we're gonna move through a more traditional sun salutation, one that's practiced in the Shivananda school of yoga. So this will add on some gentle lunging to help us progressively open the hips more. So from your equal standing pose, pushing squarely through the earth, grow tall. Thigh bones back as the tailbone anchors. On your inhale, arms stretching into the sky, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, fold all the way down. And when your breath is done, right leg shoots to the back of the mat. As far as it will go, drop the knee to the floor as your toes point away, lifting to your fingertips. Hips melt down and forward as you feel your heart. Left leg back to inchworm, knees, chest, chin to lower. So remember, stick with cobra, but you can push into your palms a little bit more now, elevating the upper body, finding a little more stretch, downward dog. So a little less than traditional, the Shivananda flow can be a little fast-paced. We'll give ourselves an extra breath. And then as you conclude your exhalation, step your right foot forward to the top of the mat, drop your back knee, smile with your eyes as your hips melt down and your heart opens, forward fold. Exhaling to the top of the mat, drop your head toward your feet. Up we go. Ride the inhalation into the sky, equal standing. Next side. Inhale, lifts us up. Draw the shoulders down the back. Exhale, fold. Left leg as far back as it will go, and then drop that knee to the mat. Rising onto your fingertips, draw your shoulders together behind you to open your heart. Right foot back to flow. Inchworm pose, pushing through the heels and the sitting bones to keep the hips tractioning back. Cobra, head's the last to lift. Downward facing dog. We'll give ourselves that recovery breath in and out. At the end of the exhale, left foot steps. Drop your back knee. Reach through the big toe of your right foot and then step up to the top of the mat to fold. Rising on the inhale, arms stretch to sky, back by your sides. So that's one cycle, two more. Urdhva Hastasana, deep breath. Stretch the back body as you fold. Right leg to the back of the mat, drop the knee. Shoulders together behind you as the heart and the hips draw forward, step back to flow. Keep your index finger knuckles planting so the upper body is fully supported. Cobra posture, the heart moves forward, away from the toes, downward dog. Giving ourselves that full breath in and out. Draw up the fronts of the legs, reach down the backs. Right foot steps. Dropping the left knee, gaze over the horizon with an inhale. Top of the mat for your forward fold. Lift your knees and thighs up into your hips. Rising as you fill, look to thumbs. Arms by your sides. Switching sides now, left inhale. Folding forward on your exhale. So as it is the left side, left leg steps back. Drop knee, hips down and forward as you inhale. Right foot back to lower, knees, chest, chin. Cobra posture, head is last to lift. Downward facing dog, pushing away. Breath in and out. And then of course, as it's the left side, we're going to be using left leg once more. Drop the right knee to the mat, toes point away, and with your inhale, heart opens. Forward folding, bow over your waistband. In breath, lift to the sky. Releasing. That second cycle, we've got one more on both sides. Following your breath. It can become a bit easy to jump into the flow, following our cues. Right leg. But it's always going to be more gratifying if you follow your natural breath pattern and don't try to conform with us. Left leg back as you drop into inchworm. So if I'm a little ahead or a little behind you, just keep on smiling, keep on breathing. Downward facing dog for recovery. Inner and outer heels reaching toward the earth, whether they ever touch or not. Left leg. Gotcha. Isn't it?
No, that was right.
That's right.
Isn't that right?
Okay. Drop the knee.
It's right.
Happens sometimes. Hips soften and then forward fold. Inhale all the way up we go, lifting into the sky. Equal standing. So last half of the cycle, left leg both ways, I promise. Forward fold, crown the toes, tailbone to heaven, left leg back, drop the knee. So a little bit of reach through the big toe, turns the inseam to the sky, and then step back, flow. Cobra, head is the last to lift. Downward facing dog. Full breath in and out. At the end of your exhalation, the left foot steps. Dropping the back knee, point those toes away, and the hips melt with the inhale. Forward fold at the top of the mat, head to knees. You take it all the way up into the sky, lifting your arms high. Exhale by your sides, equal standing. 2 breaths, check back in. Standing squarely through the feet, finding that energetic lift of the legs and the front body. Then settle back into your breath. Okay, reestablish your equal breathing, Samavriti. And then reestablish your inwardly focused gaze. Okay, disregarding all those things that are around you in your room, and instead dropping deeper beneath the surface of your experience. Moving into our crescent moon flow. So as you stand at the top of the mat, we'll take a moment to really assess the alignment of the hips. So placing your right hand on your lower belly, your left hand on your sacrum. Okay, bend your knees, drop your tail back for a moment, letting your belly roll forward. Now with the right hand, we're going to draw in and up. With the left hand, push down to tuck the tail, and then push through your feet to re-straighten the legs. At some point, you'll likely to find some kind of pressure within the back of the hips. Okay, it's at this point that we want to consciously stretch down through the sacrum without clenching or tightening those gluteal muscles. Keeping your hips in this relatively neutral plane, drop the arms by your sides as you look out into the distance. And with an inhale, circle your arms overhead, interlacing your first 3 fingers. Let the shoulders sink and your floating ribs draw back into the body. So So side to side flow just to warm us up. Get a little taller as your crown rises. And then arching to the right side, exhale, push your hips left. Ground through the feet to draw back up to center. Nice and slow off to your left side, hips go right. 2 more times. Move slow and deliberate. Stretching the left body as you arch right. Stretching the right body as you arch left. 1 more time. Keep the shoulders down, floating ribs in, go deep. Inhale, push through those feet. Exhale, deep. Inhale, rise to center. Take your hands into your heart, bend your knees, sit down. Get a little taller, lifting through your crown, and then twisting. Left elbow to right thigh, pressing your hands to prayer as you twist the belly. If this twist does not come readily, you can always use your left hand on the knee and your right hand on your hip to find a more comfortable rotation. Now sliding the shoulders down the back as the back of your skull moves to the wall behind you for 3. Push through your feet as you breathe into your low back. For 2. Last exhale is your deepest twist. Forward fold, let it go. So lift yourself halfway, stretch the heart forward. Melt again, head to knees. Rising up, reach your arms into the sky above, look up to thumbs, hands to heart, bend your knees, sit into that imaginary chair. Thighs squeeze, get tall. Inhale, right elbow, left thigh. So your right knee is going to try to sneak forward as you move into the twist initially. So we pull that right hip back to keep the legs side by side. Therefore, the hips are neutral, the spine can be straight. As we turn through the belly, breathe through those kidneys. Breathe into the backs of your lungs for 3. Okay, turning the tummy more for 2. And then remember, we end on the exhale and then fold. Halfway, lengthen, inhale, melt back down. Head remains heavy, arms dangle, bend your knees, round your spine up, vertebra by vertebra. As the arms fall by your sides, open your feet hip width, so it should just be 1 toe heel step. Sweep your hands around to your sacrum. So we want to be sure that your hands are beneath your low back. They should be beneath your waistband. So a little push down, the tailbone anchors as you strengthen your thighs. Inhale, draw up the front body, lift your gaze and your heart. Exhaling, the eyes to the ceiling or walking them along the ceiling and back as you explore comfortable back bend. But more essential than how far you drop back now is the strength we find in the legs and the lift out of the lower belly. And this is going to help us to really find some opening in the low back as we breathe diligently into those kidneys. Last exhalation. Inhale, lift your eyes forward, hands to waist. Exhaling, bend your knees and begin to fold. Rounding the spine as you drop, release your arms. Go ahead and turn the palms of your hands to face the ceiling so the shoulders are more relaxed. And then a little yes, a little no, shaking out the head. Okay, lengthen halfway up with an inhale. Exhale, grab a hold of your ankles, gently draw in. Fingertips to mat. Lengthening partway up, turn your feet out 45 degrees, bend your knees and sit down low into a squatting position, Malasana. So with the feet turned out 45 degrees and the feet hip width, this is a good starting point, very preliminary stage. Again, for those of us that do have some sensitivity within the knees, sitting on 1 or 2 blocks here will take the majority of the pressure off of the knee joints while still allowing us some space to find a reasonable opening within your hips. Okay, without the blocks underneath the hips. Of course, be sure you're standing equally into your 2 feet. So it's one thing just to squat down and let go of all muscular energy. And it's a completely different thing to push down into your feet, which is going to encourage a little bit of that rebound, that energetic lift through the crown. And that, of course, is what we want. Now from here, I'm going to give you the opportunity to move into Bakasana, crow posture, or preliminary stages. So I will be demonstrating preliminary as Amber starts to move into more traditional crow. So first we set the hands the width of the shoulders. You want to be certain that your middle fingers are parallel to one another here and no wider than the shoulders, as this is going to help us to keep the wrists protected. Now, turn the elbows out sideways, press your shins into your upper arms, creating a little bit of a ledge for yourself,
And then for stage 1, simply rising onto the tips of the toes. Stage 2, you can work on lifting one heel at a time, or eventually rolling forward as you bring both of the feet off of the floor. Remember to keep your breath, and if you're working with one foot, go ahead and switch. Just a couple more breathings. Knees hugging in, inner thighs drawn to center. Lower your toes. Drop back into your heels. Hands to heart center, lift up with an inhale. Okay, savor the effect of the pose. Hands to the mat, turn your feet parallel, and as the legs straighten, melt down. A little yes and no with the head, make sure your neck is relaxed. Also, relax that jaw. And then grab your big toes, index and middle finger, but if they are absurdly far away, grab your ankles by all means. Long spine first, and then enjoy your forward fold. So the toes stay soft. The webbing between relaxed. As you pour your breath down your legs, it should carry with your awareness. So you're feeling the inhalations cascading down into the ankles, into the heels. Let your head and face relax even more for 3. Final exhalation. Good. Lengthening your spine halfway up. Go ahead and bend your knees, plant your palms, step back into your flow, inchworm pose, or if you prefer, Bakasana, jump back, knees, chest, chin. Cobra posture, inhale, downward facing dog. So we'll be setting ourselves up in lizard posture. So this will be our first potential circumstance where we'll be using our blocks. So I'd like you to have one block at the top of your mat and one block out to the right side. Now, as you're ready, lifting your right leg up into the sky, bend your right knee, and then stepping up between your hands into a long lunge. Switch the right foot and the right hand, wiggling your right leg outside. Drop your back knee, and pointing the toes away, take a moment to draw your heart as far forward as it will go, almost finding a little bit of a back bend. Now, bending into your elbows, you can bring yourself down onto your blocks or to the earth. And we want to be certain that both elbows are the same distance away from the floor. So if your left elbow can hit the floor but not your right elbow, this is going to cause you to roll open and twist, and we don't want this to happen. So utilizing the block is going to be preferred over getting ourselves into a weird contorted position. Stand through your right foot gently, and breathe into the underside of that hip, or potentially into the back of that hip, just depending on where you feel most restricted. Wherever the sensations predominate, that is an opportunity for you to not only listen, but to cultivate change by patiently breathing into that feeling. Of course, that feeling should be relatively elastic. We want that kind of rubbery sensation that changes every time we breathe. Last exhale here in lizard, and then building back up to straighten arms. So you should have your right knee directly atop your right heel. The knee should not be lunging beyond the foot. If that's the case, you're gonna have to widen your stance when we tuck the back toes and lift the knee. So left foot tucks, lift your knee off of the floor, go ahead and sweep that heel back down into the mat, and then with a quick glance down, make sure your 2 feet are in line. So the right foot may need to walk in slightly. Okay, reach outside of your leg for your block at its highest position, and then inhale, roll the left body open, left arm straight up into the sky. Exhale, reposition that arm, turn the bicep toward your cheek, reach the fingertips forward in side angle posture. So your right arm and right leg should be close enough together to gently touch. Squeezing those 2 limbs into one another will give you more control over your right hip. What is that hip doing? The thigh twists outwardly, so the right buttock attempts to tuck underneath, allowing us to eventually get that nice stack of the hips. Energetically reaching in both directions.
Turn the eyes to the earth with an exhalation. Make sure your toes are not white, but relax. And then with an inhale, warrior two, left arm draws you back. So you may not have the benefit of mirrors in the room around you. And building up from the floor is gonna tend to throw us forward in this posture. So make sure if you look down, your armpits and your hip creases are directly on top of each other. So you have a nice vertical spine. And then as you gaze out over the middle finger of your right hand, the left body pulls back just ever so slightly. The back of your skull and the left side of your ribs. Breathing as your back leg straightens. And then we're going to reverse our warrior. So just go ahead and place your left hand on the back of your left hip. Okay, giving yourself a gentle push to add onto that tuck. Inhale, bend the right arm as you roll back, but mindfully remain connected to your lunge, stacking the right knee directly atop the heel so that shin bone feels like it's planted directly down into the mat. Remember, low back should feel comfortable. If you're feeling a lot of pressure in your low back, don't drop back as far, and try to focus on lifting your lower belly, not only on the exhales, but the inhales as well. Last three, melting the shoulders away from the ears. Stay until the end of your exhale, and then inhale through warrior two, windmill your hands to the mat, stepping back, plank position. Pause for a moment in plank, push your heels straight back as the crown of your head radiates forward, and then drop your knees, chest, chin. Cobra posture, hips stay on the earth, but you can push into your palms a little. Downward facing dog. Okay, check back in with your breath. And also assess any difference that you're conscious of between the two sides of the body. Left now. Lifting the left leg up into the sky, bend the knee. Exhale, step up between your hands. Now once you've done so, we're gonna go ahead and step left foot outside the shoulder line. Dropping the back knee, point the toes away. First, stretch your heart forward. Then, begin to, yes, slowly lower down onto your elbows. Finding the block over the support on the floor. Forgive me. Spine remains long, and the underside or the back of the left hip are softening. Of course, you can't literally breathe into your hips, but if you're directing your breath down deeply enough into the base of your lungs, you're gonna feel all the muscles, tendons, and ligaments surrounding the hips accommodate and shift. Okay, deep inhalation feels as though it pushes the connective tissue out of the way, intensifying. Long exhalation, and that softening, everything shifts and realigns. Breathings. When things get uncomfortable, what is your particular habit pattern? Some of us like to push, some of us like to run away. When things start to get a little sticky, a little disagreeable, acknowledge what your mind wants to do, but try and make the choice not to. So coming back up to straighten arms. So as before, we're going to need to shift the two heels into one line and also adjust the length of our stance. Now, as you can see, Amber's got a nice long stance here, so the knee is actually just a little bit behind him. So this will be perfect. Okay, as before though, if your knee was further ahead, you need to find a little more space. Go ahead and tuck the toes of your right foot, lift the knee, swing that heel in, dropping it to the mat, and if your 2 feet are not in one line, left foot can wiggle to the center line a little bit more. Anchoring into your left hand, we're going to roll open, lift right arm up into the sky first, twist your belly back, and then with the exhale, the right shoulder blade widens and sinks into the hip as the arm extends forward. Now let your eyes remain in an upward gazing position underneath your elbow as you patiently twist your belly open. So the right side rolls away as we feel that left buttock tucking underneath to stack up the sitting bones. Two more breaths, sink a little deeper into your lunge, but not into your block. Warrior two. So look down first, and with an inhale, pull yourself up to center, right arm tractions away. So if you don't have the benefit of mirrors in the room, make sure your armpits are on top of your hip creases. And then eyes over the middle finger of left hand. Okay, right leg is straightening, reaching back more and more as you push through your hamstrings or your calves. Let's take it back. Right hand to right buttock, adding a little push into the hip to give a little added tuck, and then lower belly, protecting the spine. Okay, you should feel, for the most part, a stretch from your hip socket to your armpit, but this doesn't happen to be a hard and fast rule. We're all going to experience different sensations relative to our individual landscape. 2 more exhales, stay connected to your lunge. And then of course, remain till the absolute end of that exhale. Warrior two, fill yourself up. Vinyasa, hands to the mat, step back. Left foot meets the right in plank position. But once you hit plank, drop the knees and pause. Sitting bones pull back, exhale, elbows close, lower. Cobra posture, lifting with the heart, roll the heart open. Exhale, downward dog, push your hips away. Check back in, body, breath, and mind. Returning to the top of your mat. At the end of an exhale, look forward, step or hop, bring length into the spine, and then melt down. Rising up, we'll sweep the arms up overhead into the sky. Exhaling, arms by your sides. So, if you do happen to have any mirrors in the room that you're in currently, why don't you go ahead and reposition yourself so you're going to be pointed straight ahead, looking at your own reflection. As we're going to be coming into our one standing balance today, eagle posture, Garudasana. So that'll be our second bird flight. So once you have repositioned yourself in a place where you can have a little more of a visual perspective over your alignment, return to equal standing, drop the arms by your sides, let the eyes gaze out not so much into your reflection, but a little bit past. Shift the weight into your left heel. Draw the hands in and up toward heart center. Finishing off your exhalation, prepare, and then with an inhale, gracefully circle your arms up overhead. Take the right elbow beneath the left elbow into eagle gesture. Now, if that does not come easily, you can always just wrap right arm under and grasp opposite shoulders. Bend your knees, sit low, and then with an inhale, lift your right thigh up and over to cross the legs. So eventually in this pose, we'll hook the foot behind the calf muscle, much like Amber has done. And for a lot of us in this posture though, we are just simply going to either point the toes, or if the balance is really challenging today, instead of crossing thighs, you can cross shins for now as you rest the big toe on the earth. But an essential action here is to turn those inner thighs towards center. You're squeezing the inner legs together so much that it's almost as if all the air between those two legs has disappeared. Shoulders sink as the crown lifts. And at this point, probably hoping that we can get to the second side. So we'll switch. Feet together, inhale, arms up, left elbow beneath. So the weight is in the right side now as we bend our knees. Sit low, left thigh goes up and over to cross. Whether you hook the foot or not terribly important. Now the blades of your hands are bisecting your face, and eventually as your elbows lift a little, it'll be the wrists that get right in line with your nose. So this means we have a disruption to our vision. Okay, relax your eyes and try to not so much look outside, but instead look in. Feel the earth beneath your foot. Feel how the hugging of the inner thighs helps you to plant down more deeply into that base. And then when you get enough pressure down, crown lifting. Find that rebound. 2 more breath cycles. With an inhale, feet together, arms rise. Ooh, exhale, equal standing pose. Back to the top of the mat, arms by your sides. Inhale, take it up, lift overhead. Folding forward, nice and slow. Lengthen your spine halfway. Exhale, melt back down.
Bring length into your spine, step both your feet back to plank position, drop your knees, chest, and chin. Cobra posture, inhale. Downward facing dog, exhale. A quick return, look up to the top of the mat, inhale forward, lengthen your spine out, melting down, head to knees. All the way up to top, ride the inhale, arms by your sides, grabbing hold of your hips. We'll move into our forward folding sequence. So soften your knees, step out wide to the side, feet approximately 3 meters apart. So this is a fairly wide stance. And your second toes should be parallel with one another.
3 meters.
So let your tailbone drop as you lift your heart. Exhale, fold forward, hands to the mat. Long spine first, and then bending the elbows. Let your crown drop beneath your heart beneath your hips. It's a long, deliberate breathing. From a passive perspective, letting the weight roll forward into the forefeet a little while keeping your toes soft, and just letting gravity do the work of tractioning your spine into the earth can be a wonderful release. Now for some of us, we're going to find that we're open enough here in this pose to bring the tips of our fingers in line with the tips of our toes. Okay, at this point, the rib cage is really dropping down close to the legs. So if you find yourself here, you're looking for a little bit more opening, focus on the action of the legs. So by lifting your knees and your thighs up and engaging these quadricep muscles, it's going to tell your nervous system to relax your hamstrings. So you can stretch a bit more deeply. And as well as not only stretching the back of the hips, you're strengthening the front. So you're moving towards a greater place of equilibrium. But of course, this does require a little more effort. So work at your intelligent edge. 2 more exhales, maybe walking the hands through a little further if you have the space. Lengthening halfway up with an inhalation, pause, micro-bend your knees. Pressing the weight through the feet, grab your hips, and then inhale, rise all the way up. So we're going to shorten our stance about 2 to 3 steps. Okay, so this stance should be modestly shorter than triangle posture. With the hands still on the waist, just simply swing yourself to face the front of your mat so you're facing over your right leg with the left foot turned in about 60 degrees. Take both arms up overhead, and as you do so, find that anchor of the pelvis. Tailbone down, lower belly up, folding forward, place your hands on your shin, your blocks, or eventually the earth, but not to take the weight of the body. The whole of you stands down through your feet. Your hands are simply resting upon the earth as perhaps a reminder to soften your shoulders away from your ears. So certainly breathing down the right leg, but as much awareness as you pour into that right limb, ground just as much into your left. Okay, by standing equally into your feet, your hips are going to be in this nice, even plane. Okay, you should be able to easily balance a cup full of tea right here in your sacrum. If not, the weight is uneven, and you need to shift into whichever hip is lower. Last exhale. Keep the legs straight, arms overhead, inhale, rise. Exhale, hands to hips. Turning around to face the opposite leg, you may need to step your left foot left slightly in order to maintain that kind of standard alignment of heel to heel. Sweeping arms overhead, take a nice deep breath in. Hinging at the waist, find your shin, blocks, or earth. Breathe a little more length and extension into your spine as the left hip rolls back, and then melting directly over the left knee. Eyes gazing to the knee, as if one day your nose might touch. So that lifting of the knees and thighs that I mentioned in the earlier posture, it's really relevant for any forward folding practice. Same would be said here by gently lifting the quadriceps. The hamstrings are going to get a better stretch, and the overall structure of the hip more balanced between strength and flexibility. This will be our last exhalation here in Parsvottanasana. Push through the 2 feet equally.
Inhale, arms overhead, reaching the sky, hands to waist. Spin round to face the top of your mat, and with a light step, feet together, arms drop by your sides in equal standing. Pushing through those feet, sweep the arms overhead with an inhale. Hinge down, forward fold, exhale. Re-lengthen your spine. Melt in a little deeper. Re-lengthen. This time, bend your knees deeply, dropping into a low squatting position, allowing the hips to lower all the way down toward the ankles. Now, for many of us, we're going to find that the heels are lifting slightly, or if not completely, off of our mats. Okay, for only a few, we're going to be able to stand down comfortably into both of the feet while keeping them next to each other. So if you are in that very small group of people who are able to keep your feet flat, go ahead and straighten your legs and take a forward fold for now, pausing while the rest of us get off of our mat. So if your heels were lifted, go in the back of your mat. We're going to start to roll it up about 80% of the way, which is going to give us some added support for our heels. Now, once you've rolled the mat up sufficiently, feet close, drop your heels down onto that cushion while the forefoot remains connected with the earth. Now, if you have those two blocks nearby, your first block will be set at a relatively low setting in line with your right forefoot. Your other block will be back behind your right hip by about 3 or 4 inches. So, reaching your right fingertips back for that block behind you. Take your left forearm around your shins, and as you push through your feet, get a little taller. With an exhale, begin to turn your belly. This is a good starting point. We'll call this stage 1. Whereas with stage 2, on another inhale, lift and lengthen out of the left body. With your exhale, wedge your elbow down into the knee to help you twist more deeply through the torso. Deeper still, perhaps, place that left hand on that block beside you. And as your hands push down, the heart opens and the belly twists. This is definitely one of the deeper twists within our practice. So cautiously and thoughtfully expand your low back, not just breathing through the belly, but really filling out the lumbar spine. 2 more exhales. And releasing to center, stay on your mat, but fold forward, straighten your legs, give your knees a little release, head heavy. Lengthen halfway as you fill, fold back in gently. This time as we lengthen, bend the knees once more, sit down low, shifting your blocks into their opposite position. So we'll be setting 1 block behind the left hip by about 6 inches, 1 block outside of the left forefoot. Taking your left hand behind you, wrap the right forearm around the shins, get tall first, find your initial twist. If there is room for you to continue on, inhale, lift the right arm out of the hip, draw the whole body long, exhale, elbow outside the knee, twist the waist, and you can stay in that stop sign position or begin to reach your fingertips for your block to help you push more deeply into that twist. As the arm bones root down, the heart opens. Breathe through your kidneys and your hips. Remember to smile as your eyes softly focus over the horizon. Last 3. Push down through your feet. Don't take for granted that you're standing. Last exhale. And then returning to center. Move your back block out of the way. As you straighten your legs to fold forward, give your yoga mat a kick. Lengthen that spine out with your inhale. Forward fold once more. Wipe your slate clean, lift halfway. Step or hop back to plank position, drop knees, chest, and chin into the earth. Cobra posture, hips remain on the floor. Downward facing dog, tuck your toes, lift your hips up high. So we'll move into our back bending series. Lowering to the mat, drop down knees, chest, chin, and then straighten everything out to lower fully onto your belly. If you need to scoot back so your head is on the mat, do so.
And then we'll begin by simply resting the forehead on the floor. So draw your elbows back toward the wall behind you until the tips of your fingers are right in line with the top of your shoulder blade. The elbows stay nice and close. And for this cobra today, we're going to be doing a gentle cobra that allows a little more space for bending. So we will keep the feet hip width, but then relax the legs a little and just sink your pelvis into the floor. Good. Head remains heavy. With an inhale, roll your shoulders back. Stage 1 cobra, using the strength of the spine to lift you. Okay, the eyes gaze over the horizon. And the contraction that we find in this pose are the erector spinae, these muscles that run parallel to the spinal column on either side. Now, if you're comfortable in your low back and you want to move into a deeper stretch through the front of your hips, stage 2 cobra will take us there, becoming less strength focused and more length focused. So in this case, pushing now through your palms, the tricep muscles will take over as you ground the hands, and this will help you to lift up even higher. Stretching through the anterior or the front of the pelvis for 3. Remember to keep your low back and your buttocks relatively relaxed. We don't want to create tension or too much muscular effort. And then lowering with your exhale, bring your left ear to the floor, drop your arms by your sides, palms face the ceiling, bring your big toes to touch, but your heels remain separated. Okay, we refer to this often as Nakrasana or crocodile pose. Breathe mindfully into your low back. Now setting up Dhanurasana. Bend your knees, reaching back, grab your ankles from the outside. Try to get your index finger as far down into the seam of the ankle as possible. Knees close, about hip width position. Let your pelvis sink first, and then with your inhale, start to kick. Pushing the feet away and lifting the toes as they spread into the heavens is enough to cultivate that fundamental structure of the posture. If you're carrying on further, your bicep muscles will turn down toward the earth, which may feel a little funny. You're rolling the shoulders forward, but this will facilitate a better stretch through the pectoral muscle. Big toes drawing nearer for 3. Soften the buttocks as your inner thighs lift for 2. Inhale, look up into the heavens, and release. So opposite side, right ear down, palms face the ceiling, big toes touch, and heels fall away as you breathe into your low back, but also all the way up into the shoulders and chest. Okay, the whole of your back body needs to rise and fall with your breath. So one more back bend. This time, finally, moving into upward facing dog. So with your feet separated again, hip width, the toes pointing away, tops of the feet resting on the mat. Then draw your hands into cobra position first. But from cobra, we're gonna have to go a little further back. So maybe 1.5 to 2 inches lower than you would, closer to your floating ribs. Drop the head, roll the shoulders toward your ears. The ceiling, your hips, inhale, begin pushing the arms straight, pushing through the tops of the feet enough to lift your knees just barely off of the floor. Now the heart draws forward as the crown of the head continues lifting. Breathing the belly toward the front of the mat and the toes back for 3. Okay, turn the inner thighs toward the ceiling to help stretch the front of the hip more deeply for 2. One more inhale, tailbone tucks, eyes lift. Exhale, lower, down. Good. Keep the knees on the mat, push your hips away, child's pose. So forehead drops, certainly relax your neck. Once your elbows drop, if you turn your palms to face the ceiling, this will help to spread your shoulders across the upper back, a little more therapeutic for the upper body perhaps. And then, as we spoke about quite at length at the beginning of the class, adjust the width of your knees and your feet to really make yourself comfortable here. Now for those of us that are able to keep the knees close together, okay, this closeness is going to push against the belly. So if you're breathing deeply, you should feel a lot more movement on your back. Okay, and this is good. This is really going to help to massage those erector muscles that we activated in the majority of our back bends. If your knees are further apart, this makes it a little more challenging to cultivate the same kind of conscious breathing, but no worries. Just a little bit of lift in the belly will be enough to push the breath up into your spine. So you do have to think about it a little more perhaps, but you can cultivate that same gentle massage with the breath as if your knees were close by. Okay, last 2 exhales, let go of anything that lingers. And we'll begin to move into our hip opening / closing sequence. When you're ready, returning to downward facing dog. All right, from this downward facing dog, we are going to be moving into one-legged king of pigeons. That'll be our third bird of flight. But this day, we're going to be working with our left leg first so we can transition into our twist more naturally. So as you inhale, lifting your left leg up into the sky, bend your left knee, roll your hips open, and then sweep that knee up behind your left wrist. So if there are any issues with the knee or the hips here, you can place a block underneath your left hip, 2 blocks perhaps. You can also place a long pillow or cushion directly beneath the hips, crossing under both thighs. Okay, this way, by elevating the hips off of the floor, you're going to find less pressure within the knee. If you are comfortable enough to lower all the way down, then do so, dropping back as the right leg lengthens away. But now as we're practicing both pigeon and sleeping swan, that means we're going to start upright first. So traditionally, pigeon is an upright posture. As we push down into the palms of the hands, it helps us to maintain the opening of the chest, but that's about it for the arms. In order to get the upper body really moving back, we have to focus on the lower belly. So that lifting from hip bone to hip bone will move the abdomen away from the earth, which will have the double effect of supporting the low back and also stretching that front of the right hip. 2 more breaths here. Try to keep your jaw soft. Maybe lift your eyes a little higher. 1 more inhale to the peak, and then slowly lowering down, come to your block, your forearms, pillows, whatever you've got available to you. And forehead can drop down to the floor, the hands can make a pillow. And if you're really quite open in this posture, you can start wiggling your left foot closer to the top of the mat. But as that shin bone, that is your left shin bone, becomes closer to parallel with the top of your mat, you need to flex your foot more and more so, as this is going to help to firm the quadricep muscles and protect the knee joint to work into those deeper stretches. So often referred to as sleeping swan, if not just shorthanded as pigeon. And we're going to find a lot more of that opening through the left hip, particularly through the back of the hip, those gluteal muscles, but for some of us, maybe the inner thigh, inner hamstring. 2 more breathings, melting through the back body. And then drawing your hands in beneath your shoulders. Keep your head heavy. It should be the last thing to lift. Push the arms straight to round your spine up. Fall into your left hip. Take your back leg, bring it all the way around and stand outside of your knee. Now the ankle of the right foot should be just behind the knee joint so that we can better stand through this foot as well as soften the left hip into the mat. Take your right hip behind you, right hip hand. Right hand behind you, his left arm either hugs the knee or elbow outside the thigh. So we've got this little bit of the preliminary twist. Get tall, inhale. Exhale, belly moves you, eyes over the horizon, and then just smile to yourself as you breathe, open your hips and your low back. Multi-directional breathing. Inhalations up and down, left and right, forward and back. Last 3. last exhale. And then transitioning to head to knee. So once you turn back to center, stretch your right leg straight out in front of you along the mat. Pull the left knee out until the foot rests on the inner thigh. So you should have approximately a 90-degree angle here, but more important, your shoulders and your hips are facing straight over the front of your mat with the arms overhead. And then hinging down, grab for your foot, your ankle, your belt, re-lengthen, and then with a little twist in the belly to the right, let yourself settle. So your eyes are gazing toward your shin as you keep your shoulders and your collarbones parallel to the floor beneath you, so you're not twisting open on one side or the other. As the head falls and the eyes gaze directly down at the center of that limb, you should try to pull your heart forward, stretching your sternum out toward your big toe. Final exhalation, pull just a little on the hands to stretch more deeply. Reach the arms overhead with your inhale, and then let them fall. So reaching underneath your right knee, give it a very small bend. Then grab your left foot from underneath, pull the heel into your groins. So your heel pushes right up between your sitting bones. Okay, draw the right leg in a little closer, interlace your fingers around your foot, and then lifting the heel off of the floor, pause here. So first and foremost, we want to try and keep the weight forward on our sitting bones as we straighten out of our low back. Okay, the straighter the spine, the better. And this should be your primary focus. Gets tempting to get caught up in how high we can lift the leg, but not without that straight spine. So lifting your shin parallel to the earth, stage 2. The eyes gazing to the big toe as you breathe into a tall spine. Stage 3, starting to straighten the leg, point the toes, eyes on the big toe as your heart continues to rise. This is our last bird of flight, crane posture. Good. As the hands pull gently on the foot, they do so to sink the scapula and elevate the heart center. As far as that right leg is concerned, your toes are lifting up into the sky. They're fairly neutral, but ever so subtly, try to turn the inseam toward the earth. 2 more breaths. So that's our last exhale. We bend the elbows and then bend the knee. Cross the right shin in front of the left as you roll over your feet and step back into your flow. Knees, chest, chin. Cobra posture, gentle back bend, push through those palms. Downward dog. Check back in. It's a long sequence for one side, so notice any asymmetry. Right leg now. Lifting the leg into the sky, bend the knee. Exhale, sweep it up behind your right wrist. Slide the left leg away, and then remember we're staying upright first for one-legged king of pigeons. So walking the hands in while keeping them shoulder width. Push down into your palms enough to help maintain the elevation of the upper body. But from there then, focus on the front of the hips. Lengthening out of the lower tummy as you bring your belly button toward your heart. Anchoring your tailbone and your sacrum behind you as the back of the pelvis tucks. Inhale, a little taller. Sleeping swan, come forward. Drop down onto your blocks, your pillows, stacked fists, or the earth. Much like when we were practicing Parsvottanasana, that standing forward fold over one leg, if there's any asymmetry in our positioning, the hips start to twist or tilt. A similar thing can happen here. Okay, if you're too focused on getting your right hip down, the hips roll open. If you're too focused on squaring the pelvis, you may find you're rolling closed. You can always self-assess just by simply reaching one hand back and making sure that your sacrum feels relatively neutral. Draw your hands up beneath your shoulders. Keep your head heavy. It should be the last thing to lift as you round up with an inhale. Drop the weight into your right hip. And then bring your left leg all the way up and around to stand outside of your knee for your spinal twist. So by bringing the ankle up closer to the knee, it will make it easier to anchor down through your two hips more evenly. Left hand behind you in line with your spine as you lift out of the right body. Exhale, move into your twist. So hugging the knee initially, stop sign position eventually. One day maybe moving towards bind. Whatever position you find yourself in, spine grows tall and the breath more full. Always trying to take up more space with your inhalations. Feel every cell in your body growing bigger. Last 3. Gazing over the left shoulder, over the horizon for 2. Your final exhalation is, of course, your deepest twist. And then return. Straighten the left leg directly out before you. Pull the right leg out from underneath until the sole of the foot presses against the inner thigh. Inhale, arms overhead. Find your foot, belt, shin. Remember, bend the knee if the hips are really tight here. Growing long once you've achieved that grasp. And then settling into your forward fold. Little turn with the tummy. Collarbone square. Breathe out to your toes. Within Janu Shirshasana, head to knee pose. For those of us that are a little more familiar with this posture, we want to try to find a sense of pushing, not only through the left foot forward, but the right foot in. And it should be a perfect harmony of effort. A couple more breathings, heart reaching to toes. And then up we go. Inhale, lift the arms into the sky. Exhale, release. Give your left leg a little bend, reaching underneath. Grab your right foot, point it, and pull the heel into the groins. Now, drawing the left knee in closer, interlace the fingers around the foot. And once you've done so, lifting the heel off of the floor, draw up and out of your low back. Heel off the floor. Keep it down, keep it down. Stage 2, lifting your shin parallel to the earth. Stage 3, extending the leg long, reaching through your toes. Draw up and out of your low back. Keep that heart rising as you soften the features of your face. Jaw, roof of the mouth, ears, eyes, everything melting away. Last 3. That last exhale, bend your elbows a little bit more. And then releasing, cross the left shin in front of the right as you roll over your feet, step back into your flow. Knees, chest, chin, inchworm pose. Cobra, nice deep breath. Opening the heart forward as you reach your toes back, downward dog. Looking up between your hands, step or lightly hop to sit. After you sweep your legs out in front of you, then bend your knees in and then open them out wide for bound angle posture. So another opportunity for a block or a pillow stuffed beneath the hips in order to get your knees relatively in line with your navel center. So Amber here is in a good position, so we're just going to work as is at floor level. But of course, if you are starting to feel those knees hike up around your ribs, please sit on some kind of cushion. It'll be much comfortabler for your knees, and it's going to help to open the hips much more readily. So pull back, elbows close, and then exhale your heart forward. Drop your eyes to the earth just in front of your toes, and continue to radiate through the center of your heart. Yet another forward fold, yet another opportunity for us to lengthen the spine. Heels, pressing heels, protecting the knees as well as helping you to open the hips. Final exhale, round your spine. Inhale, build up one bone at a time. Close your knees like a book.
Vinyasa. This is our last flow. Cross the shins. Roll over the feet, step back, knees, chest, chin, inchworm. Cobra posture. Inhale. Downward facing dog. All right, looking up between your hands, step or lightly hop to sit. And then roll down onto your back, bring your knees in close, and give yourself a hug. So our final back bending. Supported bridge or bridge posture 3 times with a couple variations. So Amber's going to be demonstrating our supported bridge posture for today. To begin with, we want to draw the heels in so that they're close enough to our hips for us to easily touch them with our fingers. Now, also be mindful that your heels are the width of your hips. So your knees, hip width likewise, will stay stacked directly atop the ankle bone. Okay, wiggle your shoulder blades underneath you. And as you start to tuck them underneath, you'll see the floating ribs start to puff up a little bit. That's right where we want to start. Chin is perpendicular to the floor, so your eyes easily lift up towards the ceiling. Now with your tailbone, we're going to tuck under. Inhale, start to lift your hips away. Take the arms beneath, interlacing the fingers. Walk your shoulders a little bit closer to your spine, and then pushing the thighs toward the ceiling, soften the buttocks. So the finger interlaced position is our static first variation. For those of us that are going to be moving into our supported variation, have your block nearby, tucking that block underneath your hips. Make sure that it is beneath your sacrum and not your low back. Okay, so again, the block lower than your waistband. Now for those of us that are going to be staying in supported bridge, just hang tight as we lower down and come back up 2 more times. This way you have that gentle back bend, great opportunity to breathe into the lumbar spine, great opportunity to open the hips gently as the tailbone reaches into the knees, but without all the up and down, that takes us through more of that dynamic heating type flow. So for those of us that want to go more dynamic, lowering down slowly with an exhalation, round your spine into the floor, releasing the hands, of course, to make space. Give yourself a breath in and out, softening your low back. Now for the second round, pull your heels in a little bit closer and try to grab a hold of your ankle bones. Okay, if you cannot grasp the ankles, don't worry, just interlace the fingers like we did the first time round. Tucking your tail, with an inhale, lift the hips away from the earth, reach underneath, interlace your fingers, or, second variation, grab hold of the ankles. Now, either way, as we walk the shoulders a little closer to the spine in this new variation, you may also find you want to walk your shoulders a little closer to your feet. Gluteal muscles are relaxed, that's the back of your hips. Inner thighs turning toward the earth as you push your pelvis up a little higher for 3, 2, and 1. Releasing your hands or your ankles, round your spine down into the floor. Once the hips hit the mat, take a breath. Keep your feet flat. Final variation. So you can interlace the fingers, you can grab hold of the ankles, or moving into upward facing bow posture, often referred to as wheel in gymnastics. Okay, taking your hands beside your ears. Okay, only coming up into this variation if you are familiar with the posture. Okay, once the fingers are planted behind the ears, heels grounding down, lead with the tail. On an inhale, draw up to the crown of your head and pause. And then, elevating all the way up, rise through the pelvis, turning your thighs to center. Breathe from your sacrum, from your low back for 3, 2, 1 more inhale. Tuck your chin in, lower to the back of your skull first. Round your spine down in sequence. Go as fluidly as possible. Supported bridge. Remove your block. Round down, and we'll all bring our knees in toward our chest. Give yourself a hug. Take a few breaths into your low back. Supine twist. Open your arms out at shoulder height. Dropping both of your knees to the left side of your mat. Turn your gaze right. Let your legs relax and breathe fully from right hip to skull on inhale, and then right back down in your exhales. Okay, try to really feel your breath moving on your back. massaging and releasing the connective tissue that we just focused on within those final back bends. Bringing your head back to center at the end of an exhale, lift your knees, opposite direction. Knees fall right, chin drops left. Looking into the palm of your left hand, the wall beside you, or just gazing into the backs of your eyelids. So notice any lingering muscular effort around the jaw. Let it soften. The roof of the mouth, let it widen. The bridge of your nose between your eyes, relaxed so that the breath draws in and pours back out freely. With an exhale, bring your head to center. With an inhale, lift your knees, and for one last time, reach around, hug. And then start to stretch it out long. Extending the legs out upon the mat. Turn the palms of the hands into an upward facing position and start to traction your shoulders down away from your ears. The back of the neck is long. If you need to tuck your tail, do so the low back feels comfortable. And then, of course, checking back in with the face. You unclench the binding surfaces of your teeth. Soften the backs of your eyes. And as we do have only about 50 more seconds before our feed cuts, we'll get you totally settled and just let you be. So turning your awareness to your breath. Let that rhythm completely occupy your attention. The inhalation passively rises, and the exhalation passively falls. Okay, distractions in the room, distractions within your mind will pull you away. And every time they do so, they are in fact reminding you to come back. Breath after breath. To return again to that most authentic you that exists beneath the mind. Namaste.